On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
All right, everybody, I'm here with Alan Burr of the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. AB, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time. Tell the listeners about yourself, if you would, please.
All right, thanks for having me, Chris. Right now, currently AAA, Indianapolis with the Pittsburgh Pirates. This will be my third consecutive year there and seventh overall with the Pirates. I have living upstate New York in Syracuse. I have a wife going on just went on 9 years. Two boys, one just turned 6 and one's getting ready to turn 3 next week. So we moved up. Once I got into baseball, we moved up to Syracuse, where she's from. Kind of been there ever since. So
the winters up in Syracuse are different than what most people are used to, probably.
That is correct. And, every time we travel to Syracuse, it's like, why do you live here? And, I don't know if I really had a choice in that.
I get the same thing when we go to Buffalo and Rochester because all my family's there, and the guys are like, why did you grow up here? I'm like, well, I didn't really have a choice growing up where I lived, but honestly, it probably was for the better. It made me a little bit tougher and maybe a little bit psycho. We had a game, it was snowing, and people are like out in shorts just playing catch, and it's a whole thing. Obviously, some people don't, but you and I can relate to it. So
Absolutely.
So first question for you, best professional baseball story. What do you have for me? Either something lost in translation or a success story through the rankings. What's your best story or best memory that you have for me?
Honestly, thinking about this, I'm like, we did have a bus breakdown going to Portland. We left the night. We left after a day game on Sunday, and it's a 16-hour drive, I believe. I wake up, and we're stopped on the side of the road somewhere in New York. Missed a complete off day the next day because we broke down. I was going to go with that one, but thinking about it, I won't mention any names, but we had a good call-up story this year. This kid has been busting his butt all year. His whole career has gone ups and downs, suspensions left and right. So the manager calls everybody in. We get a team meeting. He's, going through a bunch of things. This is, why you continue to play hard and this and that. And then he had his iPhone connected to the Bluetooth speaker, started playing his walkout song, and he just kind of had a puzzled look on his face, like, what is going on? And then everybody erupted, and that was his first trip to the major league. So that was quite an awesome story. So.
Yeah, being my first year in AAA, I've got to experience that a couple times here with our guys, and it's just so awesome every time to see them, living out their dream. And obviously, we're playing a very, very small part in it, but it's just cool to be in that environment and see the guys' reaction when they get that call for the first time.
Yeah, the first one's always pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I do remember the bus breakdown situation. Now that you bring it up, I remember that vaguely, but I do remember that whole situation. I just felt so bad for you guys, and that's definitely something people can relate to in the minor leagues, a bus breakdown like that.
Yep, had everything planned to go get some lobster with the staff that night, and we get in, and it's 6 p.m. on the off day, and it's pretty much a wrap.
Yep, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. So what do you believe in within strength and conditioning that others think you are crazy for believing?
I'd say right now the hot topic is technology. We dabble with it. We have a few pieces of technology right now. I just think there's a time and a place for it, and with what we do, there's days that I'll use it, and days I'm like, is it worth it? Do we really need it? So honestly, I'll there's some kickback from it, and the data collection that goes along with it. But right now, I'm just kind of like going back old school and like, do I really need technology to tell me what I need to? Sometimes it's helpful, and a lot of times I'm like, do I really even need it? So I think that'd be the big one right now.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've kind of found is just you get more out of guys just talking to them when they're in the weight room, when they're in the training room when you see them, or the clubhouse, or the dugout, or out at stretch, or wherever. If you just have those conversations, those things kind of tend to come out anyways, and then you can make adjustments based on just what you hear sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a big piece, and visually watching guys move and how they do things, like it'll tell you a lot. So.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a time and a place for the technology. Sometimes it gets a little overkill and you're staring at an iPad instead of watching a guy or something along those lines. And the biggest thing I've heard is, what are we doing with this? And if guys don't have an immediate answer for what we're using the technology for, they kind of shy away from it.
Yeah, definitely.
So what makes a strength and conditioning coach successful in your mind? Maybe just in general and then more specifically in professional baseball.
I think on the general aspect of it, I think you always need to strive to learn more, always work to evolve, striving to get better every day. I think the big piece where I take that from is I'm not saying all coaches, but like coming up through the ranks when I first started, there wasn't a whole lot of building the man piece. It was more X's and O's, and basically it was win on the field, get them better, and that was really the main concern. I think I give a big huge props to the Pirates for focusing more on the man and building that person. So I think striving to be better every day, learning. I think in general that's be a good advice. So from a professional standpoint, from pro baseball specifically, honestly, like adaptability, you have to learn pretty quickly. Like you're in some rinky-dink clubhouse, you got 2 sets of dumbbells and a TRX. What can we do? Weather always plays an issue. And then another big thing from a professional baseball standpoint, separating home from work. We're at the field. I mean, we play every day, and getting your time with your family is huge, and it's minimal throughout the season. So being able to separate work and focus on them, especially when you're at home, is key.
Yeah, all really, really good stuff. The adaptability piece is especially true in pro ball. We just had our first day of flight, and you fly in the morning, you get in at 2 in the afternoon, and you're playing at 6 or 7 that night. And how do you get guys to be able to do work with that kind of schedule is a big thing that you don't get other places. And then the separate home from work, I agree 100%. My wife lived with me last year, and my way to kind of separate was just to walk home from the ballpark. So I'd walk, get my thoughts to myself, collect myself, and then when I was home, it was time for her and time for the dog, and work was shut down. And I think that really helped me get through the season at times.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm about 30 minutes outside of Indianapolis, so like that drive home really helps me decompress and kind of separate a lot of things. So.
Yeah, I think that's one thing coaches kind of need, strength coaches, is we're there early, we're there long hours, and if you don't have that kind of something to get you away from the yard, and mentally especially, it really helps to have something. So I'm right there with you. Do you have any other advice for others in the field, whether it's coaches that are young, just looking to get in, or just older coaches that are just looking to stay on top of things? Any just general advice you might have?
I think biggest thing for me is always, like I said a little bit earlier, continue to learn. And it doesn't have to be pinpoint strength conditioning all the time. I mentioned the man piece earlier, and building yourself and making yourself better. Always stay hungry. And a big one that I wish people would have told me coming up is be where your feet are. You may not feel like you're at the right job, or you're pushing for that big 5 job, and you're always looking online for new jobs, the opportunity is right in front of you. You know, do what you need to do what you can with where you're at, and then ultimately that big job, that one that's gonna, you know, make it or break it, and it'll be there eventually. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard sometimes, man, especially like at this level, AAA, you're so close to the big leagues or a coordinator, and you're like, man, I could do that job. But I think if you just stay where you're at, do the job the best you can where you are, I think eventually that opportunity is going to present itself to you.
Yeah. There's a lot of times in this field, there's a lot of gossip. Like, this guy's leaving, and where's this guy going to go? This job's going to open up. And about 3 years ago, I kind of stopped listening to all the noise, and it's helped out so much. I mean, it's drastically helped. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure that your players appreciate it too, just being there and, all right, today's my day, today's my only focus. I'm going to get this guy in the right spot as best I can, and everything else, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of along those lines of continuing to learn, where are you going for continuing ed? Are there any books you recommend or podcasts you're listening to, maybe seminars for the off season? Where are you going for that learning?
Books, well, current books, there's actually 2. It all depends on if my family's here and I can, I need to use the iPad, or there's actually light that is available. Because 9 times out of 10 they're asleep when I get home. So right now, Science of Sport Training by Thomas Kurtz. I honestly don't think I've ever highlighted so much in a book in like the first chapter. It gives you a lot to think about. And then I've actually this is probably my 10th time of attempting super training. So that's in the backpack. So that'll, you know, that's a bus ride and rain delays, that sort of thing. And then I'll crack into Chris Duffin's new book, The Eagle and the Dragon, when I'm finished with those. Podcasts, I mean, it's hit or miss for me on podcasts, because a lot of times I'll blank out, especially if it's a drive. I'll just kind of, you know, just space out. But mainly a lot of times, like if it's a drive down to spring training, it's a lot of Joe Rogan. And honestly, it really doesn't matter who's on there. Seminars, I probably hadn't been to a seminar with our schedule. I probably hadn't been to a seminar since 2015. A lot of what I'm doing, especially this year, is when I come into a new city, is like, who's there, who's available. Is there a sweet gym that I can connect to somebody? Like, we get ready to go to Durham next week. You know, is there anybody I can reach out to connect to go to Duke and, you know, visit those guys? So that's kind of where I go for my continuing ed.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the best place to go anyways, is just the coaches, and pick their brains and get your questions answered kind of immediately.
Yeah, I think the top one, I don't know if I'll ever be able to top it, is that last year in Columbus we went and visited Louis Simmons, and like, the dude is unbelievable. You know, kind of gave us some information in regards, and kind of clicked some things with baseball players. You know, and he doesn't even like baseball, doesn't even train baseball players, and it's like, you know, this guy, he just knows athletes and knows training and can adapt it. But for him to spend 30 to 45 minutes with us after we worked out you can't beat it. So,
what was the workout you guys did that day?
Well, I had no intention of going to work out at all. Corey Cook, the one of the coaches that runs the Pirate City facility, was like, hey, we just bought some pieces. You know, if you guys want to, you know, hit up West Side, then go, you know, I can get you in contact. So I texted the GM the night before, and he's like, yeah, come on in, it's 7 o'clock. And he's like, look, while you're here, you might as well get a workout in. And I'm like, all right, it's dynamic upper, like, you know, no big deal. And I'm like, do I even belong in that gym at all? Like, with what I'm benching? You know, he's like, look, it really doesn't matter. So we go in, we try not to get in anybody's way, because mimicking that mentality that gym has, like, would be the greatest thing ever. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, you got guys that are helping high school track guys out squatting. Everybody's helping everybody. I mean, it was an unbelievable experience that day. So.
Yeah, two of the things I've heard with Westside, one is like you're not actually doing Westside unless you're there, and a big part of that is that mentality they have, and then the other one is nobody goes there without getting a workout in that day. So that's awesome that you got to train there and talk shop with Louie. That's actually really incredible.
Yeah, he talked shop for 30 minutes, threw us around some, pieces of equipment. Try this out. What do you think about this? And awesome experience.
Yeah, I bet, man. I want to do a lightning round with you. You got a little bit of time for me?
Let's do it.
All right, first one. Who is your biggest influence in the field of strength and conditioning?
This was a tough one. I would say honestly, when I got out of college, the guy that I was actually personal training, Jason Albertson, like, he pushed me. He's like, "Hey, go get certified. This is kind of something along those lines." It kind of got me started, pushed me in that direction. I would say honestly, the next person right under that would be Jeff Dillman when he was at Appalachian State. Like, I called him up, "Hey, no experience," and just kind of threw me right in the fire. So he's big influence on how I had to learn, and I had to learn quick. So.
One piece of equipment to train with, what would it be?
After using the inverse curl, that is by far the number one piece of equipment.
I've always wanted to get on it. It's a real deal?
It is. It's from a range of motion standpoint, you look at it, you gain about 30 more degrees of range of motion from an inverse curl than you would doing a glute ham or something like that. So,
right on. Biggest accomplishment professionally and or personally?
I'd have to be dating back to 2006, 2007 when I was in grad school, being a part of 2 national championships at Appalachian State, and then going to the Big House and upsetting Michigan in 2007.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were there for that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Last one. Any career other than strength and conditioning, what would you choose?
I've been a lot of all seasons. I've been doing a lot of carpentry and building stuff. I'd say I'd have to go that route.
Really?
Yeah, we redid some closets. Projects this off season, if I can get there, would be building a deadlift platform, building some plyo boxes. So I don't know. My dad was pretty good with his hands, and it's something I looked up to him about. So
yeah, I was gonna ask if you had built any weight room equipment.
No, not yet. No,
not yet, but it's in the plans. All right,
it's in the mix. Yep.
Cool. Hey, well, I appreciate you coming on, man. If the listeners want to get more from you, where can we go to get in contact? Is social media the best place, or is there a better spot?
A lot of time, I'm on social media. Instagram, it's SCCoach_Burr. And then Twitter, it's the same thing with no underscore. Those are usually my 2 go-tos. But, feel free to reach out, email, anything like that too. So.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck at the rest of the year, and we'll be talking soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. That concludes this episode with AB. I hope you enjoyed this one. Selfishly, it was really awesome to hear about his time that he spent with Louie out at Westside. 3 things that I took from AB in this episode: continue to learn daily, build the man, and separate home from work. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.